Men in the wilderness, listless, bored, miserable. All of a sudden, the sky opens up with blondes and beer. It's the Swedish bikini team or ski team or whatever. They're ready to party. We're talking about commercials here, a series of them for Stroh's beer. The ads are new and heating up TV screens across America. But critics say they're heating up far more than that.
Guys, doesn't get any better than this.
A lawsuit filed by 5 women, employees of Stroh's St. Paul, Minnesota brewery, could force the beer makers to drink those words. The women say they've been sexually harassed by their male counterparts and that the company's TV advertising for Old Milwaukee beer is to blame.
And when the Swedish bikini team came surfing by, it got a little better.
The women say that when it got better for Stroh's, it got worse for them.
I go to my tool cart and wonder, what will it be today? Will it be poured full of beer? Will spray grip be sprayed all over my tools? What tools will be missing? Will there be pictures of nude women or a Playboy magazine in it?
Here are some of the reasons for my complaint. Being hit on the butt while I was trying to work. Being confronted by 2 male employees, one who had a condom on his thumb, while they were asking, "What's this?"
It did get to the point that I just felt like I was a worthless human being.
The suit seeks unspecified damages and the end to the television ads. More than 24 men, workers and supervisors have been named in the suit. Stroh says the commercials are intended to parody sexist beer ads. While free speech advocates say the commercials are protected by the First Amendment, attorney Lori Peterson says they encourage and condone a hostile work environment.
Stroh tells its male employees through its advertisements that women are stupid, panting playthings, body parts for the consumption of the male viewer. They, through their ads, say that women are not to be respected, that sexism is funny, and that they will profit financially from portraying women in these demeaning ways.
At least for now, Stroh says they're not taking the ads off the air. And joining us now to discuss the suit against Stroh is attorney Lori Peterson, who is at our affiliate in Minneapolis. And here in our studio, Isabel Pinsler, the American Civil Liberties Union. The ACLU is against this suit, saying it is a First Amendment right to run any kind of ads that are not illegal or indecent. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Let me start with you, Ms. Peterson, in Minneapolis. It sounds as though what these men were doing would clearly constitute sexual harassment, if indeed it's true. But how do you prove this link between their behavior and the ads? It's quite possible they could act this way at any place that they were employed.
True. What you've got to understand is this harassment's been going on since the mid-'80s, and it includes all kinds of actions, including women being sexually assaulted by supervisors, getting grabbed on the breast and on the rear end, getting called pussies and beavers, and all kinds of other names that you can't probably even put on the air. Putting up posters about why beer is better than women, saying things like a beer is always wet, a frigid beer is a good beer, a beer doesn't demand equality. I mean, the list goes on and on. The sexism in this plant is then endorsed through Stroh's advertising because from the top of the company they're screaming that women are nothing but tits and ass, that women are not to be respected, and then why are they surprised when the male employees in the work environment treat women in exactly that same way? Just as a kid looks to its parent on what's appropriate behavior in the home, the employee looks to the employer as to what's appropriate in the workplace. And here you've got that employer spewing out this message about women and then acting surprised when the employees act the same way in the workplace.
Ms. Pinsler, do you see that in these ads?
Well, first of all, I want to say the ACLU is not opposed to this suit. This suit sounds to me like these plaintiffs ought to prevail. They have clearly been sexually harassed in the workplace. The only question is whether the ad can be barred as part of their relief. And that's where we depart from them.
Well, according to what Ms. Peterson is saying and what the women in the suit were saying, that it seems that the men have established a relationship between beer and women.
Well, I don't know whether the men have. What's happening in the workplace has to be stopped. That is focused, targeted harassment on the women. But that kind of thing happens in workplaces that don't have commercials like that.
True,
there's no link been shown between the commercial and what's going on. If the commercial was being beamed into the plant and the workers were using the commercial to harass the men, that might be a different situation.
Can I jump in and answer that?
Absolutely.
Okay, first of all, we may not have that much of a disagreement with the ACLU on this because we aren't at this point seeking a ban. We're only asking Stroh's to make its own choice as to what type of advertising it will use. Just as it does not use racist or anti-Semitic advertising, we're asking that they draw the line with sexist advertising. She made a point about whether it's being used in the workplace. Now, some of these commercials have been reduced to posters and little cards that you can hand out. Management has handed out posters of women with cleavage hanging out, pulling down their pants with no shirt on, and then the men use those posters as weapons of harassment in the workplace to these uppity women that dare to speak out against harassment. They'll put it up in the workplace near where the women work, in their toolboxes, on their cars, under their windshield wipers, etc. So it is being used as a weapon of harassment. And one other point, when a lone voice in the workplace spews out sexism, it's called a legal wrong, in other words, sexual harassment, and yet when you multiply that voice times a $19 million ad campaign, all of a sudden it's a legal right. And that's just a comparison that we're making, and we're not seeking a ban at this point, just a choice.
Ms. Penzler was shaking her head at some of the points that you made, Ms. Peterson.
No, that's true. They are different in that one is targeted harassment at an individual, and that violates that individual's right. The other is public speech. If the Stroh's company wanted to buy public time and say any kind of sexist thing that women don't belong in the workplace, that would be it would be their right to do that.
But isn't there a point where the free speech, the benefits of free speech, are not outweighed by the dangers that they pose to overall society?
What you have to do in any verbal sexual harassment case is balance these kind of competing goals. They aren't in conflict with each other, but they do have to be balanced, and you have to decide where to draw the line and what kind of.
And she's right.
Excuse me, Ms. Peterson. We would like to bring in Jean Keppel, who is joining us by telephone. She is one of the women who has filed suit, and she's in Minneapolis now. Ms. Keppel, first of all, let me ask you, did you go to management with complaints about the sexual harassment in the office?
Well, I'm a maintenance machinist, so I'm working right out on the floor in the factory in the can packaging department. And yes, I did go to management. I repeatedly went to the chain of command. I repeatedly.
And how did they respond?
Actually, their response was mostly that I was overreacting. One of the comments about some of the ads that were up was that, well, if a person wanted to put an ad of a cat up there, it wouldn't be offensive, and this was the same thing. When they were doing it directly to me and ended up like hanging it over a Norman Rockwell calendar that was up in a machine shop that I worked out of, and that kind of thing, that's what was happening.
Do you think that if these ads were taken off the air, that it would change the behavior of the men that you've complained about?
Well, the hope would be that the people at work the men at work would see that as a sign that this company is really serious about its sexual harassment policy. It said it's had a sexual harassment policy in place, but I mean, I don't believe it's been really enforced. And I think maybe that would be a sign to these people that they are in fact serious about it.
I have failed to take
I would ask you, Ms. Peterson, though, that Ms. Penzler brought up the point about drawing the line. Women are used to sell everything from cars to beer to shaving cream. Where do you draw the line?
Well, we draw lines with regard to speech all the time, and again, we're not asking for a ban. I want to make that clear. But we do draw the line. We don't have cigarette ads on television, liquor ads. We can't use a lot of swear words on television, consumer fraud. I mean, we draw lines in regard to speech all the time, and nobody's out there screaming that the First Amendment is going to fall apart. But all of a sudden, when you talk about sexism being the line that we draw it on, then all of a sudden people are screaming free speech, and I'm wondering about that double standard.
Yeah, why do you see this as a threat to free speech?
First of all, I should say that speaking from the point of view of the ACLU, we would oppose, we would draw a line in a different place than some other people would draw the line. And we would not oppose we don't oppose cigarette commercials, and we don't oppose a lot of the things that are banned because we believe that that's a violation of free speech.
Would this be harmful to society if these ads were taken off?
Well, it would be harmful if they were taken off.
Or forced off?
If they were forced off, yes. I believe that this would set a precedent that we would live to regret.
But Ms. Keppel, that's what you want, right? You want these ads off the air, in fact.
Well, I would like Stroh to make that choice. To me, it would be a wonderful thing if they would make that choice. It would show me that maybe they are going to be a little more sensitive about the types of things that have been happening.
All righty, well, we'll see what happens in court, which appears to be where this case is headed. Ms. Keppel, Ms. Pinsler, and Ms. Peterson, thanks for joining us tonight.